You should have the controls now.
All right, thank you, Bree. And you can see my screen okay?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
Now we can.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, as Bree said, and this is the next installment, I guess, of our monthly webinars where we try to pick either a third-party component solution for SalesLogix or a deep dive into a specific area of SalesLogix. And today we chose Knowledge Sync, which has really been around for many, many years. In fact, I'm going to say even from the very early days of SalesLogix, which answers some of the questions, and that is, what versions is it compatible with? It's really compatible with all versions of SalesLogix. The reason for that is it's monitoring the actual SQL database, not interacting with the client itself. And that also means that whether you've deployed the LAN versus the web client, it's going to work the same, again, because it's not interacting with the actual SalesLogix interface, but rather reading the data or writing to the database itself. And so what we wanted to show today is just give you kind of an overview of kind of the core features and functions, but then spend a little more time on some of the new features. They just released 8.2 of Knowledge Sync, and they added two what I think pretty neat features to it that I think everybody would like to maybe take advantage of. But before we dig into those, I want to just explain a little bit more about what Knowledge Sync does. And it is primarily an email alerting solution. And I'll show you the navigation screen or the navigator. This is one of the new 8.2 interface screens, so we'll knock this out as well. This will help kind of explain the product to you. So it's a server-based solution that can primarily, again, monitor SalesLogix, and it runs queries in the background on the server and looks for alerting conditions. So examples of that would be, if you look kind of down the navigator, that it can monitor tables and fields and conditions and apply filters. That's what we call a query. And then it can trigger an event. And an event would be, okay, I've satisfied the query, something happened or didn't happen that you would want to know about in the SalesLogix database. And so you've made a decision that you'd like to have an email sent or a text message or a report just sent out. And we're also going to show you the new charts capability of 8.2, which is one of the new, I guess, alerting tools or reporting tools that's now native within 8.2. And so if you look at the left side here, you can see that the events themselves are divided into somewhat logical buckets. So these are alerts, if I click on the little plus sign here, that are related to accounts. We'll dig into this a little bit deeper. So this is just a way to organize all of your alerts so that if you're the administrator of this, it's a little easier to try to find things and put things together that you want folks to be alerted to. And as I mentioned, this has been around for many, many years. They continue to improve the product. We've got customers that use it that literally have 1,000+ events and queries that are running and managing your system that are doing things like letting a SalesLogix user know that a new ticket has been created in the system for them, so they can get an email, hey, there's a new ticket, and we'll show you that today. It can also be tied to opportunities. It's another common one we see where maybe a sales manager wants to get kind of an update on opportunities that are overdue or dormant or about to close or did close today, and then what happened with that. So as opposed to having to go and dig around in the SalesLogix database to try to look for problems, you can define these Knowledge Sync events and alerts to tell you in advance, here's what's happening that you told me you wanted to know about. So that's really the core capability of it, is the email alerting functions. But it also has the ability, as I mentioned, to create reports and run run crystal reports and deliver those reports to email recipients. And it also has the ability to build charts and graphs and deliver those to you as a file attachment in an email. So if you like to see dashboard, charts and graphs types of objects, that's the other new feature in 8.2 that we'll show. So this, again, is the navigator, and it's a way on one screen to see kind of the whole landscape of your knowledge sync deployment and manage things from here. But I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into this and show some of the other moving parts of the product. This is our Demystifying series, so one of the objectives is to sort of bring some clarity to these solutions and help you understand kind of the moving parts. And it all kind of starts at the administrator screen. So I've got it up and running, pointing at a demo SalesLogix database today. And what I'll show you first off is that in the administrator console, this gives you visibility into the actual knowledge sync engine to make sure that the services are running, that they may be shut down or processing something. So it gives you a way to just assess the current running or not running state of the knowledge sync services so that you know that they are pinging the database and running your queries and then firing off your alerts as you have them programmed to do. So we don't usually use this too much, but it is a way to validate that everything's up and running and healthy. Okay, so from there, we're going to look at the event manager, and this really is where kind of the heavy lifting and the configuration part of knowledge sync happens. And like you saw on that navigator screen, this is drilling down into now just the queries, events, and reports that are making up what it is you've told knowledge sync you want to see. And so part of this is, too, that you have what's called an email response system. So far I've talked about that it can monitor the database, run filters or queries, and then perform an action once it gets a match on the query. But it can also monitor your inboxes. And so a common example we see there is if you've got a website and you're asking prospects to fill out a form if they're interested in what you offer, they submit that, and typically somebody in your company gets an email. Well, people go on vacation, emails get lost, you get busy or whatever. So what NowSync can do is monitor an inbox or multiple inboxes, and based, again, on triggering conditions in the email, which can be searching for keywords or specific information in the body of the email, it can actually create new records in SalesLogix. So this is kind of the reverse of a query and an alert. This is taking data from an email, such as Outlook, and creating a new lead record. And if you think about the workflow of how that would probably want to happen is, so it would monitor an inbox. It can parse the data out and put the data in the proper places, like on the leads record, what's your name, your email, your phone number, what are you interested in. And so it can literally fill out a net new lead record and create that for you. But then the other things it can do as part of the alerting functionality is assign that, maybe through some round robin or other mechanism that you wanted to use for assigning leads to your SalesLogix users, and then they can get an email alert that says you have a new lead in the system, and go into the system and work the lead as you normally would. And then we can also, once that happens, we can also send an email alert back to back with that one to the new lead that says, hey, we got your information, appreciate it. Your lead's been assigned to Lee Hogan. He's been alerted, and he'll be giving you a call. So that's kind of an example of an inbound marketing workflow that can occur. So let's show you some examples here. I have a couple of these set up that I want to be able to show you in real time here. So the first thing we're going to look at is in sales. And let's say that you want to know about a new opportunity that was created today or one that was closed today. So you just find the query first. So an event or an alert needs a query. So in here we have called it opportunities closing today or closed today. And we link those to tables. So we're defining for Knowledge Sync, where do you want me to look in the database for the conditions under which you want an alert to go out. And by the way, all of these events, all these queries I'm showing you today, they all come as part of the out-of-the-box Knowledge Sync. So these are pre-built by VineyardSoft. They're available to you to activate. You can make copies of them. You can also create brand new ones. So they're not expecting that they've covered everything in the world you'd want to be alerted on, but they do give you a pretty good list of kind of popular, common alerts. So you really getting it up and running is pretty quick. When I upgraded to 8.2, I literally had it up and running and alerting me within probably 30 minutes or so. So it is pretty easy and fast to deploy. So we're just going to concentrate on this one for the moment. And so I've added my tables. I can also apply any filters. And this is where you're really defining, okay, I know where I'm supposed to look. And filters really says, well, what do you want me to look for? I know what tables and fields you want me to monitor. And it does this on a schedule basis, which we'll show you in the actual event. So what I've told Knowledge Sync is I want to see any opportunities that are greater than or equal to today's date, and if they were closed won or closed lost, I want something to happen. And so that's what the query is doing. It's allowing you to define, well, what are the conditions under which that you want something to happen as a result. And then you can have sub-filters that filter it even further. And really what it's doing in the background is it's building this SQL string. And if you're a developer and you'd rather not use their kind of wizard-like interface, you can modify the SQL statement directly so it honors all the traditional SQL syntax and so forth. But you know, if you're not a developer, looking at this might be pretty scary. I don't know what this is doing, but I was able to pick the tables, the columns and filters, and ultimately then it previews the database. So what this is doing is it's actually running that SQL query against SalesLogix and saying, okay, I found an opportunity that was closed today, and that's what it's showing you here is that the query's working, it's returning results as you would expect. So let's go back to SalesLogix. This is one of the two that I want to show you today. And say, okay, here's GMAC Insurance, Phase 3 smartphone replacement, and let's just say that today the sales rep says, I won this particular opportunity. So I'm going to go ahead and do what I normally do. There's no extra action required by the salesperson. I'm just saying I won it. I've saved my changes. And so now if we go back into that preview, we should be seeing that, am I in the right one here? Yeah, closed today. We should be seeing that that one, which I'm not sure why it's not, was triggered today. Okay. So what would happen is now you would look at the monitor, and this is another one of the interfaces that's part of Knowledge Sync that lets you see what is going on. This is a way to track all of the events that are triggered through one of your events or queries and actually see what's happened or supposed to happen. So if there's something that's pending, it's still kind of processing its queries. You will see that here. If it checked anything today, which it did, it checked a couple of events for me. And if it was triggered today, which means, okay, it met the criteria, and I've triggered it to do something, and what I've triggered it to do is send an email. And so now we can come down to the email delivery section and see these are the specific alerts themselves that went out. And if we scroll to the right, you kind of see all the data that goes with this. And then the end result of that is that in your Outlook, for example, you're going to get a new alert. So we have another one in the system I'll show you, and that's tickets. So we'll come in here and just quickly insert a new ticket. Again, this is very common that we see this. And we'll just say this is from the Knowledge Sync demo, and it's against Abbott Limited and John Abbott, and we'll save that. So now we have a brand new ticket that we created in the system, and we'll hop back now into Knowledge Sync and take a look at the ticket events. And there's one in here called New Tickets Today. So I have that one, and I can go to the track button and see, okay, here's all the new tickets that the query found that are tied to this event. And what I've told Knowledge Sync I want to happen is I want to have one of my SalesLogix users, I just threw myself in there, as somebody who's subscribing to this alert, because I want to get some kind of notification if a new ticket's created. And if I look at the email itself, this shows me what I'm going to receive in an email when this fires off. So it also has the ability to merge in fields. So you can see that it's going to give me an email that says you have a new ticket for an account. It's going to give me the ticket ID and then throw in the notes about the problem. So this is how I'm going to be notified via email. You can also set it up to fax, not so popular anymore, or paging. I think only doctors have pagers. But you can also see that you can attach reports, which are Crystal reports. So it has a report runner built into it. So if you have Crystal reports that you want included as an attachment to the email, it can actually create that report, save it as a PDF, and then includes that as a copy or as an attachment to the email that goes out. Okay, so we can test this by saying schedule it now, and that would be a way to just, again, test it in real time, because the other thing you can do is you can set up a schedule. And a schedule is how frequently do you want Knowledge Sync to run this particular event and look for the triggering conditions that I built. So it's not real time, but again, based on how urgent it might be that this event needs to go out. You can set it up to do it every minute is the minimum, or maybe just once a day, or in this case, for demoing, I'm just going to say I don't want it to run at all. I'm going to do it manually. So I'll highlight that again and say schedule it right now so we can see it actually happen. And so now if I come into the monitor, I should see that there it is. It's checking and running that query as of today, and it triggered it right here. So it said I found a new ticket. I went ahead and created the email, and at 2:22, which is right now, I did something. Now, what did it do? Because it was programmed to send an email, we can look here and say that, okay, sent today to me, a subscriber to the event, there's a new ticket that the system alerted me to. So I think if I refresh my Outlook inbox, this will work. I'm going to give it just a second here to think about it. And there we go. So the end result of the query, or I should say the end result of creating a ticket, Knowledge Sync running based on the query, the event says send Scott an email, and here's the email. So now in my inbox, you can see it merged in the ticket ID. It says they're having an issue, and the issue is it's the Knowledge Sync demo. Please follow up, or whatever you want to say. So this is the full circle life cycle of all these alerts. Now I'm clicking around a lot, but once you have it all set up and running, it's pretty much hands-off. In fact, it's sophisticated enough where it actually has built-in capability to monitor itself, and so it has an alert built into it that can send an administrator an alert that says something's wrong with me. So it has some self-policing capabilities built into it as well. Maybe something went wrong, the email account got locked out, or whatever it is that's sending the emails, something's going wrong. Okay, and the last thing I wanted to show you was the new charting feature, and so that is part of 8.2, and so I have a query built and an event tied to it, and what I've done is I've told KnowledgeSync that if you meet the alerting query that I built, I want you for this particular event to fire a dashboard. So in addition to firing off crystal reports, it has its own dashboard creation mechanism built into it. So in addition to an email going out, attached to it is going to be the CRM dashboard that I created. And I'll show you that because that's been added to the event. And so this is an example of what the dashboard itself looks like. And again, this is part of the new 8.2 stuff. So the first thing you can do is kind of choose what kind of dashboard object, and everything you're probably used to is here: bar charts, funnel charts, line charts, pie charts. So you can just pick the style of chart that you want. You can set some other parameters that make it pretty or plain, depending on how you want to see it. And we've got a dashboard built that's based on tickets per rep. And if I click on View or Verify, you actually get to see, well, this is what it's going to attach to the email. So this is going to come in as a PNG file. It could be a JPEG or whatever, image format you want to choose. You can set all that up when you create the actual chart. So this is what's going to be attached to the email, a way for you to check it before it goes out. And so if you look in my email inbox, this is what it would look like. And here's the attached file. I can double click on it and open that up, and this is attached. So remember, this can be scheduled, so perhaps a sales manager or a customer service manager would want to get something like this every morning or throughout the day to say, look, there's a whole bunch of unassigned tickets in the system. Barb's got a few, Samantha's got a few more. And so it's a way to visually understand what's going on in the system. Okay, well, Bree, that's what I was hoping to show today, kind of a high-level overview of what it can do and what the interface looks like. Do we have any questions that need to be answered?
No, we don't, Scott. But if anybody does come up with a question following this webinar, we would be happy to answer it for you. Just send it to info@customerfx.com.
Perfect. Well, I think that's a wrap up then. If you wanted to find out more on your own as well, I started out today on the KnowledgeSync website, and it's actually www.vineyardsoft.com. And they do allow, also I'll mention that there's advanced versions of KnowledgeSync too that you can purchase that can monitor other databases beyond SalesLogix. Most of our clients buy it for SalesLogix specifically, but there are other versions of it that have a little bit more horsepower that can even do things like monitor your ERP system. And so these are some of the alerts that are kind of dual purpose. They're not only monitoring SalesLogix, but they're monitoring, could be Mass or Great Plains or whatever you're using. And so we can point to not just the SalesLogix database. We can point to any database in your infrastructure that has ODBC capability. So that's the connector mechanism that KnowledgeSync is using. So if you have ODBC connection to an ERP or accounting system, we can connect, we can define the tables, and then start building the queries and alerts. The ones that I'm showing you happen to be pre-built for Mass 100, but you can, again, build them and connect them to any number of databases as well, and not only send alerts, but also move data back and forth using KnowledgeSync. So it's also a database integration tool that a lot of our clients use for exactly that reason. Okay, well, that's everything I was kind of planning and hoping to show today. Hopefully you saw something that was interesting to you. This is by far the most popular add-on solution We've sold over the years for SalesLogix. I'd venture to say at least probably half of our customers are using it. Some of them, a couple of alerts. Some of them, like I mentioned, 1,000 different alerts. So it does scale very successfully. It's based on SQL databases and a very industrial strength engine under the hood that's making all this happen. So with that, I appreciate it, and I think we're all set. Thanks again, everybody. Thank you, Bree.